Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the wider issues and causes that create this environment where we're seeing pretty much all across the Western world at the moment, more prominent in the US perhaps, but nonetheless a Western world. And I think it's part of the effort by the globalists to cause the West to descend into anarchy. But how is it that violent criminals with long rap sheets are being not only let out in the street or given early release, but even when they're committing their 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 15th, 20th criminal offence, that they're again put back on the street or given a relative, no, you can stay with your relative, you'll be fine, or well, you're in home detention, but you're allowed out for 7 days a week, and you only have to make sure you're in at night and not during the day, and so on and so forth. So it's very hard to understand how this is happening. Now, if you read sort of court transcripts and things like that, the claim by the public defender, for example, is that what this person needs isn't prison. They just need more community services, such as social workers, that type of thing. And that's very much an attitude that's around at the moment in that sort of those industries and those occupations. But do those services exist? Exactly how many services are required? If those services don't exist and you can't say what services were required, then why should that person be back on the street after they've committed a gazillion serious offences, such as assault and battery or murder or whatever? So now we need to go into the whole sort of chain of events here to understand what's going on. Affirmative action and DEI, race, gender quotas, all this sort of stuff are playing a big role. So we'll start there. Many of the judges that are being appointed aren't actually legal experts or legal practitioners or constitutional judges or judges that believe the law should be applied equally to all. Far from it. These are rabid, many of them, not every single one, but many of them are rabid activists who believe that the law as codified simply oppresses minorities that can't behave themselves and have got no impulse or self-control, and come from very violent neighborhoods where the black people are shooting each other and killing each other all the time. So why should we be surprised if the black person goes, for example, it could be Hispanic or something, the black person goes into a white neighborhood and starts killing white people, or goes on say, public transport and starts killing white people. We shouldn't really be surprised, is the overarching narrative they try and sort of push. So if we fix the black violence in the black neighborhoods by throwing vast amounts of taxpayer dollars and services at them, then that in turn will solve problems downstream. Now, whatever the merit may or may not be with that argument, it still comes down to, well, if these people, they're not held to the same legal standards. So if they commit a crime, assault, murder, whatever the rape, whatever it may be, then they should not be held to the same standard as other people. They should be treated as irresponsible children that don't really have to own up to or accept the consequences of and the illegality of their criminal act. So many judges are being appointed or given front prime position in a Democrat-only electoral district, which of course they're going to win. And many of these judges, not only first year legal tier college, they're affirmative actions out of high school, affirmative action into college, affirmative action law degree, often law study, majoring in law with African American studies, that sort of thing. And so their degrees aren't worth a pinch of shit, but nonetheless. And then they go and work for an NGO as some sort of legal advisor, or maybe legal aid, or some flunky in the public defender's office, or something like that, where they don't have any expertise in the law, and they're part of a wider NGO activist network that says the law is in itself oppressive. It's white man's law, white man's oppression of minorities. And you have a duty, an obligation to disregard the law when someone of limited supposed social power, minority group, a historically oppressed minority group person is coming into the court. So they already have a view that's very much that the law is in itself an act of oppression, and they don't just think they should go a little bit easier. They are obligated as they see it, and they come from these activist networks where they openly and brazenly and publicly declare that these people shouldn't be put in prison. No matter what they do, they shouldn't be put in prison. They just need more services. They just they've got mental health issues. They're poor. They're impoverished. Now, if a poor person, steals the proverbial loaf of bread, that's one thing, and I don't think that's worth putting someone in prison for. But they're giving a free pass to these people who are committing serious crimes on the basis that they have limited social power, and it's that lack of social power and sort of a miasma of oppression inflicted by those evil white people that's causing them to behave this way. Therefore, they should not be judged harshly. So these judges, appointed judges, remember these are people that in the real world would have flunked out of high school. They wouldn't even have made it out of junior high school, but instead they're being processed and radicalized through the system. And that's all they've got. They don't have their brain power or their adherence to societal norms or anything like that. All they have is their activism. That's it. And then they're given a job, gifted an affirmative action DEI job as a judge. What could possibly go wrong? And it's all part of the wider spread anarchy type of process. And if there's quite a lot of stuff on YouTube and online generally about on X and so on. And some of these court hearings, you can hear what the judge is saying. Now, you can you just hear the way the judge speaks, the way the judge applies logic, the way the judge follows complexity and understands complexity. You're talking to a low IQ affirmative action flunky that's being given a job as judge on the basis that somehow it's a social justice thing. And because that's the only understanding of the world that they really have. It's the only thing they're capable of. It's a very emotional understanding of the world. White bad, non-white good, white man's law bad, social justice application good. They've got the most simplistic view of the world. And some of them, I seriously, listening to the way they talk, I doubt their IQ is over 90. I mean, you don't give someone like that a job as a judge. You just don't. But it's happened. Nor has it happened just here or there or, an isolated one-off thing. There are now many hundreds, thousands of these judges all over the United States in various capacities, junior judge, magistrates, district judges, and things like that. And they're, petty sessions type, people arguing over $100 or something. The judges at all levels are all over the United States, and so it's something that has to be dealt with. This is not a one-off or just here or just there. But it gets worse than that, and this is the bit, and I looked at a few cases in the US, and the same could apply here in Australia, by the way, or in Britain, Canada, is that the whole edifice of the law and the structure of the application of the law, its delivery, its discipline, its observation of codified law has all been taken over by activists. And this is something that needs to be grasped and understood. So why, it's one thing to just blame the judge and say that the judge is an idiot, but it goes further than that. The public defender is a rabid activist and who comes from the same activist group, working for the same NGOs, operating out of the same legal aid offices. All these people know each other. They form a conga line that go from NGO to local government activism to legal aid, back to the NGO. It's a conga line of these people that goes around, people going into agitating in the universities, pretending to be students in the student unions on campus, and really all they're doing is whipping up, crazy leftist Marxist social justice issue. These people, so what? They committed 10 murders. But what they really need is services, not prison, because prison is oppression. And so it's the white devil, evil Nazis oppressing the black, and so on. So there's all these crazy, insane things. But what about codified law, that everyone is equal before the law? No, fuck the law, fuck equality for the law. We're talking about social justice here, and you got a problem with that, you fucking damn Nazi. So the public defender's office is shot through with these sort of activists, again, where the law is like, social justice is the issue here. But also this goes on into, so the psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever who's called to give evidence about Dwayne, and has Dwayne killed anybody, or so what, he killed somebody, what's his mental state? These people come from the same activist group. Again, they all know each other. They all intermingle. They're all from the same NGOs. Now, all of them have a conflict of interest. Every single one of them has a conflict of interest. The judge, the psychologist, the public defender, often the prosecuting attorney, like representing the state. The prosecuting attorneys are also from the same activist group. They also know each other. They're also more than ready to cut the plea deal for the, what someone, the marginalised minority person. They're more than happy to cut a plea deal. Plea deals that aren't available if you're a straight white Christian male, by the way. It's only available to these supposedly ideologically determined marginalised groups. But then on top of that, the administrative people in the courts, these are the clerks of courts, the people that allocate this case will be heard by this judge. And they make sure that a judge who's going to be fully and completely sympathetic to, the black accused person who's allegedly murdered, this is now his 11th conviction for violent assault and battery, or something, this type of thing, or 11th arrest for charged with. So, and they'll make sure that the sympathetic judge gets to hear the case. So there's all sorts of corruption of process happening in background as well. And the administrative people in the court are the same people. They're with the same NGOs. They are deliberately hired from the activist class. So when you look at this, how can it happen, you might? How can this career criminal go back on the street and then end up, shooting someone or beating someone half to death, or setting someone on fire? How is it that these things happen? It's because everyone involved has a conflict of interest. They've managed to infiltrate and permeate the legal system to a point where the legal system it just can't function anymore. So you need a bit of a root and branch sort of reworking here. Now, there would be a time when, and this was in my lifetime, and I know lawyers and judges and so on. I know judges, and a judge was about to hear a case and realised that one of the witnesses or one of the people involved in the case that he was about to hear, he knew them or knew of them or somehow knew them. And he stood down from the case. He just recused himself. So, no, look, I have a conflict of interest. Now, it's a very minor conflict of interest. You can say, well, that's a pretty small conflict of interest there. Is that really worth worrying about? But such were the standards of probity, legal probity at the time, that the judge said, no, even the slightest whiff of, a compromising factor of some sort, conflict of interest in this case, the judge would stand down and say, no, I have to get another judge to hear this. The same could be for lawyers, a prosecutor. I can't prosecute this case because that guy is a member of a club that I'm a member of, so I can't prosecute it. I have to get someone else to prosecute it. Or someone who's a defense lawyer says, no, I can't defend this case because I know your brother. And this sort of thing. Such were the standards of probity back in the day. Again, this is within my lifetime, and I'm not a million years old. So how have standards fallen so far where it's now completely acceptable, and the activists would say fully desirable, to have people with a massive conflict of interest, ideological conflict of interest in this case, where they see it as their mission to ignore the law, screw the codified law. We're going to apply, rabid ideological social justice principles to this. and that everyone involved in the process, they all know each other. They're from the same NGOs and the same conga lines and so on. That's simply not acceptable. And you may know somebody like the defending lawyer may know a prosecuting lawyer because they've prosecuted cases in court before, so they know each other in that strict professional sense. I mean, that's not conflict of interest. But when you're at the same placard waving, you're at the same NGOs, screaming, down with the white man, evil Nazis, the law is discriminatory, we can't, the law, let's fuck the law, and so then you're hopelessly compromised. Not only should you not be a judge, but you shouldn't be hearing certain cases. So now this is a classic case. Here's a judge who's got a Hispanic father and a black mother. So ticking some serious boxes there in terms of diversity. She appears to be a lesbian, but I don't know. It's not quite sure about this. She's comes from some backwater high school where she was an ordinary student. I'd say ordinary, even that would be kind, but somehow magically gets a scholarship to go and study law at some low tier university. Now already we're seeing an intervention here that somebody with an IQ of 90 and given her performance in court and an interview she gave, her IQ wouldn't be much above that, if at all. And then she's shoehorned into, and she gets some gig at an NGO, can't be merit. Then she goes to another NGO, then gets a gig as in the legal aid office as some flunky, back to the NGO, and then she's a judge. I mean, for fuck's sake. So even if you just look at her legal training alone, but the important thing is she sees herself as a social justice activist. The law has failed. The law is bad. The law is evil. It's white man's law. Bad white man. Bad law. We have to change it so it's now turned it into good. What do we do? How do we turn evil, bad, Nazi white man law into good? We just do the opposite, whatever the white man would do. If the white man would put someone in prison for murder, then we won't. If the white man would fine somebody, then we won't fine them. So they perceive justice now as to do the opposite of whatever white man would have done, has done, and then that becomes social justice. So hopelessly compromised at all levels. At the administrative level, the legal level, the defender level, the prosecuting level, the whole thing is compromised and needs to be. Now we could address this by having, again, standards of probity that not long ago did exist. Asking someone, well, are you a member of the NGO that this judge? Well, you can't do this. Let's have a look at what the platform of that NGO is. Well, the NGO's platform is to overturn codified law. You can't hear this case, Your Honour, and so on. So if these people won't stand down themselves from hearing the case or not be involved in it, then there has to be strict legal requirements as to, no, you can't be involved in this. You have a conflict of interest. But it's only an ideological conflict. It doesn't matter. You have a conflict of interest. And only through that will we be able to address these issues. You've been with Tassus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.